All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? Hey, everyone. Well, looks like we got a little bit of an agenda. If you got anything else, please put it on the agenda. I just wanted a quick update, and maybe Michelle, since you're on, you can say another word or two about this, but there is now a draft of a WordPress website alternative to the version I slapped up. Can you say what the next step is on that?
Yeah, so I've asked them, I gave them the thumbs up to make it live last week, and I followed up today and heard back from Craig, and he said he expects it to go live today, and I requested a WordPress login for you as well, Larry, so you can go in and start making any updates you want to make.
Okay. So just FYI, everyone, this was just this it's just a WordPress version of what was already there. So it still needs plenty of work, but at least it'll be a presence. And by live today, does that mean that DNS will be mapped to it? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I can work with DAF on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we might need to change that since he set that up to go to the Square site.
All right. Thanks. So the next item, well, while I have you, Michelle, is there anything else that we ought to be aware of that need our attention, the TST's attention?
Not that I'm aware of. I did send this out to you in time, and right before this meeting, I updated like a working events and speaking opportunities calendar. So if there are any events that it would be good for Aether to participate in, or that the community is aware of and think it would be good for Aether to have a presence at, we can kind of start compiling that and deciding which ones we want to attend or do a talk
Good.
at.
Good. Thanks. All right. Looks like the next item is one Gabriel added. Gabriel?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so this is related to a discussion that Ajay and myself had last week. I was asking him a few things based on some comments that we see that I was seeing in the SD core 5G values, the configuration files. And basically there are a few things that are like, the comments say, this should be enabled by default after the test is completed, such as, for example, the SCTP-LB, or whether to enable the DB store. So basically, right now they are disabled by default. And the end of the discussion was, we should basically make them enable now, and it seems that everything has been tested, so it should be all these kind of optional parameters should be enabled by default.
Okay, that's great. I want to just make a list of these because I'm not sure they're all equivalent, but so we've got the latest version of the charts, SCTP-LB, the load balancer, and enable DB store. Yeah, I remember those comments. So absolutely, I would think if this is now ready, we should do that. And if this is now ready, we should do that. I'm editing the notes. If that didn't make any sense. So they both should be changed.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that need to be done in there because they have some comments, right? So it says basically, once backend is stable, this option will be enabled by default. But we believe that that is stable already, and of course we should run a few more tests. But so far, all my tests when there is new things for the SCTP-LB, I have been basically enabled that by default. The DB store is something similar. The canonical team made a few changes in there, and we believe that that's also in good shape to be enabled by default. let me see what else.
So both of those are edits to the values file.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Does this affect 4G at all?
I haven't looked at all at 4G. Probably not.
Okay. I just yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What else? Let's see. What else? Yeah, one thing for the latest charts version. In that case, last week we added a few updates on the Helm charts that restricts the UPF to only use 2 VFs. But for that, we need the UPF image also to get updated. So basically to publish the latest image. So those changes are already there, but we need to publish the new changes in there, and we need to kind of bring this update the Helm charts based on the latest image. So
there's two. I wanted to separate two issues there. Every time we know there's an stable version of the Helm chart, we should update on ramp to point to it.
That's yes.
But that's different than saying that you always get the latest.
I
want to
say one more time, please. I got lost.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Please, can you say it one more time? I got confused.
So I want to keep it the way such that the chart being used is explicitly stated in the variables, as opposed to leaving it blank, which gets you whatever happens to be the latest.
Mm-hmm.
So that we take an explicit step of updating the variables, and no one's caught by surprise that a Helm chart changed out from underneath them.
Okay.
So that it's just an explicit step.
Sure. Yeah. From that perspective, then it shouldn't be. It shouldn't have it like empty quotation marks
Exactly.
to use the latest,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay, good. Yeah, that sounds good. So
yeah,
from a testing point of view, we always test empty version, which tests whatever happens to be the latest. But from a release, or quote unquote release of on ramp, I'd like it to be, we have to manually update it.
So then it should fail your latest test, right? If you are testing with the latest stable.
If late, I had not looked recently, but yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because if you were using the latest let's say since last week, then it should fail because the image doesn't reflect what the Helm chart is trying to do. And we saw yesterday that issue with Kunal when we were debugging an issue with not an issue, but trying to understand why the UPF in 4G was not coming back online.
Yeah. So just sort of somewhat related to that, and I don't know if DAF is now on, but he is because he's in the middle of adding, I don't know quite how to say it, a normalized version of all the tests. There's a whole bunch of new tests, and so it's in kind of, it's hard to keep track of what's working and what's not working because there's so many failures, because so much of what's failing is experimental in terms of what's running on Jenkins. So I've not been attempting to track what is and isn't failing right now very closely. Hopefully that made some sense.
Yeah, so from that perspective, then the SCTPLB and the enable DB store, there were kind of two examples of these optional things that should be enabled by default. But the main idea in this is to try to start enabling all these different features that should be enabled by default. And I wanted to double check whether there is any opposition or we are good on that, so we can actually proceed making those changes. And whatever changes we're doing, of course, we are testing. We're testing that locally. I am testing locally before I make any change on that.
Yeah, this all sounds great. Yeah. So I do have a question about the load balancer. And I see Bala is on. Is this at all related to the load balancer that he does, or is his a different load balancer?
I have no idea. Bilal maybe will be the one to answer that. But just to kind of give a little more background on the STTPLB, this got refactored probably like at the beginning of the year.
What is the question, Larry?
I'm just wondering if the load balancer, I do vaguely remember the comment, to enable it. So I know what you're roughly referring to, but I'm just wondering if there's any relationship between that load balancer and the one that Bilal has been using.
Oh, Bilal. Okay, so first of all, there is one Bilal in this meeting, right? So he's not Bilal from Purdue. The current Bilal, whatever you see in the call, is like from different company. Is my ex-colleague. Now coming back to your SCTPLB question, so whatever Bilal from Purdue is using, that it's same SCTPLB whatever we have in the open source domain. So rarely, like there could be one or two minor changes which may be there in the Purdue's repository, which doesn't exist in the open source.
But okay, so his is derived from this. It's possibly changed.
Yeah.
Okay. So enabling it here is completely consistent with somewhere later in the summer when we've integrated that scalability work into the release.
Yeah.
It'll just be an update of this load balancer, possibly. All right, so that hit a dead end. I think that's fine. So if Gabriel, I can possibly go in and find where to make the edits, but if you want to submit a PR against those values files, that'd be fine.
Sure. Okay.
I added rock update. I see Sean is on, and I know you and Gabriel and others have been working on the GitHub actions for the rock Helm charts. I just wondered if there was any update there.
So as far as the GitHub actions on the rock Helm charts, I think we're waiting on a secret, Gabriel, is that right?
That's correct. So the PR is ready. Sean reviewed it and it's approved, but we are waiting on DAF to help us setting up the appropriate secrets for Jenkins, such that we can push the new Helm charts can be published into the charts Ether project. So he already set up, I think last week, some secrets, but the two secrets that he set up for Jenkins, I don't think are the correct ones. And that's why we're waiting to kind of fix those things. So basically what he needs to do is to set up the same secrets that were set up in the SD Core Helm charts repository. That's exactly the same thing that he has to do.
I'll follow up with him and just remind him of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the PR is in draft now. So just to avoid the unintentional merging at the moment. So as soon as those secrets are in place, I can change it as ready and merge that PR.
Nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got an SD-RAN update from Mujong, who is in Korea, so it's not a great time zone for him to join. And these are just a cut and paste. Thanks, I'm assuming Gabriel, you might have done this. This is a cut and paste from something he posted to Slack, so I'll just let you read it yourself. Short summary is that he is making progress, and you can read all about it there. Any other discussion on that? I don't.
Just kind of general information probably for everybody. I have been seeing activity on the ONOS project where they are consolidating different PRs that were automatically opened by the dependable based on the GitHub actions that we added. So they are kind of consolidating that and trying to merge them together. So yeah, they are kind of having some progress on that part.
Great.
So going down the list of those 250 something PRs that I mentioned to you that are in the ONOS project organization. So they are kind of like working on towards that part.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, and interestingly, but just a note here, he's doing some training. He's got a collection of students he's starting to work with. And it'll be interesting to get the output of that so that maybe we can reuse it. Canal QA?
Sure. Ryan. So yeah, we have done a first commit of JJV files for the quick start on-ramp integration test on Ether Jenkins repo. We are waiting comments on that, feedback about what are things would be required after for using this to run these JJV files on Jenkins. So we'll wait for a feedback on that.
So
Then,
before,
yeah.
thank you. Before we go on, I just want to make sure everyone's aware, because it would be really great if we had a JJB expert that could help us with this. We are now, this is in the Open Networking Lab community and our organization on GitHub, and Ether Jenkins is a new repo, and we've just moved one job. So the pipeline definition and the templates are here. If anyone wants to get involved in helping make this so, and that we're just using a fairly simple test as a starter to try to understand how to do it right. Happy to have help here.
I think Mark from Canonical has some knowledge on that. Probably you can ask him, but I don't see him in the call.
Yeah, I don't see him on the call. Thanks for reminding me. I'll touch base with Mark and have him keep an eye on this. I think it's the case that these pipelines, this is just one of the tests, but the pipeline here is significantly repeated in all the tests. They're relatively similar. And so it'd be nice if we could figure out a little bit of factoring here to simplify this without going crazy. But anyway, best practices in constructing JJB specs is what I'm looking for. And for me, it's not about best practices. It's just trying to figure out what's going on. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for that, Kanal. You can keep going.
Yep. So so I have updated the default config files for UE ransom to map it with the UE ransom's format. So earlier the default config files that we were using were of GNB sim. So now we have planned to have minimal changes in Jenkins jobs, and earlier we were copying the whole file from outside to the UE ransom folder. So now once we will have these config files, we will be able to just make changes in the config files itself, and then we can use them inside UE ransom.
Good. Thank you.
Then we had a debugging session. Gabriel and me were looking into the UPF terminating issue. So that I mean, one of the issue that we were looking into was of 5G, and another one was for 4G deployment. So 4G deployment, we were able to figure out that the issue was with JSON C related change. So which was earlier also discussed, that earlier we were using JSON and now we are using JSON C. So that was the change. So there we have we got some progress, but on 5G because the job was running from quite a long time, so the events got missed. So due to that, we could not find a lot of events on that, and due to that, we did not get a exact root cause. So once I see this job stuck again, I'll keep sharing the logs with Gabriel or on the SD Core dev channel.
Just one comment to add here for the change, the file rename from UPF JSON to UPF JSON scene 4G. I opened a PR yesterday. Larry merged it, so now Kunal, if you pull the latest on ramp, you should have that change in there, so the UPF shouldn't get stuck anymore, as we kind of saw yesterday during the debugging session for the 4G deployment. For the 5G, sorry?
Yep, that's
Okay.
helpful.
And then for the 5G deployment, that's kind of like very strange situation because it's an intermittent thing. It's not that always happens there. So that's why it's a little bit more challenging to try to debug the root cause of that.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I asked Kunal to try to kind of keep track of, as soon as the issue happens, to try to get the logs from there so we can have a better view, better understanding what's happening in there. But yeah. But for example, that issue I haven't seen locally on my setup, so that's why I cannot even reproduce locally.
How do you spell intermittent?
It's double TENT. Towards the end. Yeah.
The second, yeah, that one.
TTENT.
Thank you. I depend. No, I still didn't get it right, but that's okay. Don't worry.
The second T is double. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
For moving on to the UV ransom throughput test. So earlier, we used to have a single address allocation. So for UV ransom, initially we used to get 170 to 250 range of IP addresses, and it always used to start with 1. So that's where it was quite easier to directly map it. So right now, I think after the change in IP address allocation, the IPs are now changing quite. I think regularly it is getting changed. So I'm not sure about the exact logic or how it works, but yeah, I have seen few different IPs getting allocated to the UV, so that is where the changes, and I'm trying to incorporate it in the pipeline itself.
So you're basically saying you can't hardwire it.
Yeah, right. I have to fetch it and then I have to save it somewhere. Then I think from there I need to use maybe a variable might help us.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything else? All right. I have nothing else. So everybody gets half an hour back. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Ron.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.